So a warm welcome to everyone for this third webinar of our series on public-private partnership to boost the implementation of your Sustainable Energy Action Plan. My name is Frédéric Boyer. I work for the EU Covenant of Mayors Office, and I'm very happy today, and I have to moderate this discussion with two speakers, two experts I will present very shortly. Today we're going to discuss about how to boost your share of renewable energy in your city through power purchase agreement. And to explain what is a power purchase agreement, we'll have Bram Claeys. Bram is a senior advisor at the Regulatory Assistance Project in Europe. And he tries to work and to maximize the clean energy package for all citizens, working on market reforms and other topics. And he has a long-standing experience working for different organizations, but also, and very important for the topic, he was a renewable energy policy director for the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources, and also a policy advisor on renewable energy for the Flemish energy minister. The second speaker is Marko Kućan. Marko is a mechanical engineer. He works for the city of Zagreb, where he's the head of the Department for Energy Infrastructure, Renewable Energy, and I really like this name, Environmentally Friendly Fuels. He coordinates a series of projects and policy in Zagreb, dealing with renovation of building, production of renewable energy, and he will give us a few examples of what Zagreb is doing. A quick glance at our agenda, but you'll see we'll be flexible with the timing. We'll start with Bram. He will introduce what is a power purchase agreement, a PPA, and then we'll have the city insights from Marko. Then, of course, a Q&A session, but you can feel free also to drop some questions into the chat during the speaker's presentation, and then we will cover them during the Q&A session. So without further ado, I will pass the floor to Bram, and you will also take the control of the screen, Bram. So the floor is yours. We can see your screen, and now in full mode. Perfect.
Great. Yes, thank you very much, Frédéric, and good morning to you all. Very happy to be here to talk about the important topic of growing the renewable energy share in local communities. And I think that the tool of power purchase agreements is an interesting one. So I hope that we can learn a little bit about how it might work, what it is, how it might work, and see if it's of interest to you. And looking forward to hearing your feedback as well. So I'm with the Regulatory Assistance Project, as Frédéric said, and we're an NGO think tank that specializes in regulation, laws and rules to advance the energy transition. We work in the US, in Europe, in China, and I'm coordinating the electricity markets team in the European office of RAP. So we have very much focused on these tools like PPAs and what they can do, and I hope that we can share some of that experience with you. Now, the idea of my presentation is to give an introduction to what PPAs are and what they can do. So I think it's useful to start with just making sure that we are clear on what a PPA is exactly. So a PPA is an acronym that you may have heard already, and it stands for Power Purchase Agreement. It's a term that is very generic. It refers to a commercial contract between a renewable electricity producer, so a power plant that is using solar or wind or biomass, any renewable electricity generator on the one hand, and then an off-taker, so somebody that pays for the electricity being produced, and that is often facilitated by a third party. Now, specific, it doesn't have to be, but usually we are interested in PPAs when they are long term, so several years, more than 1 or 2 or 3 years. We're thinking 10, 15, 20-year terms. It's a contract, so that's really important. And it shares essentially the risk of building a new project between the ones investing and the ones buying the electricity. And because that risk is shared, it makes it easier for the investor to get financing from the banks or to use their own capital. And because the financing is easier, it will be cheaper. You will get a more affordable interest rate, for example, from the banks. So the electricity that is sold from the solar or wind farm will be also lower cost. So that's kind of the idea. You sign a long-term contract for several years that is going to reduce the risk of the investment. And in the end, the electricity that is being sold is cheaper. So that's what a PPA is. Now, there's many different types. And on the next slide, I will go into a bit more details. On this kind of laying the land slide, I think it's important to also mention contract for differences. A contract for difference is a specific type of long-term contracts. It's a long-term contract that settles the difference. That's why it's called contract for difference. Settles the difference between an agreed strike price, so some kind of price that the investor thinks is necessary, and a reference price. Often that's the spot market price or an average of the real-time electricity market. And if that reference price at the real market prices are lower than the strike price, then the investor gets a top-up, gets the difference. If the market prices are higher, then the investor will pay back the difference to the off-taker for the contract. Now, why do I spend so much time explaining what a contract for difference is? Because double-sided contracts for difference between a producer and a public entity, often it will be the transmission system operator, for example, in a country, will become the European standard for renewable energy support schemes going forward. Some countries are already using them, but the European electricity regulation now says that these double-sided CFDs need to become the standard if you want to support renewable energy projects or new nuclear for that matter, but we're focusing here on renewable energy. So double-sided CFD is a specific type of power purchase agreements, and they're important, and it's relevant in this context because it shows that these types of contracts are recognized as a good and important tool to promote renewable energy. Right now, why would you want to sign one? As a producer, on the left-hand side of this slide, as we said, the long-term offtake agreement gives you secured revenues, predictable revenues. So it's going to be cheaper to finance, and it's going to facilitate making an investment decision. We're living in uncertain times. There's a lot of risks, geopolitical and other risks. So having a contract like this gives you ease of mind and will make it easier to actually go forward with a contract, with a project. On the off-taker side, and the off-taker can be all kinds of entities, but in in our case today, we're interested, of course, in local authorities. The benefits will be that the power that you receive, that you buy, will be cheaper. It can be cheaper. It doesn't have to be. We'll talk about that. It gives you long-term visibility of the electricity prices. For 10, 15, 20 years, you know how much you will pay for at least a share of your electricity. And that predictability in and of itself, with all the volatility in the markets that we've seen in the past 3-4 years, is also attractive. Third, importantly, it can help you contribute to sustainability goals. Covenant of Mayors is all about that, of course. And that's an important feature of PPAs. And fourth, and definitely not least important, it can be a way for local authorities to promote, to support economic investments in the local economy, also involving citizens, local citizens, in those investments. So there's a few good reasons. Now, as I said, PPAs come in many shapes and forms. So very quickly, and we can go in more detail if you want, but some basic options of PPAs are, first and the most straightforward one is building a direct line between a renewable energy project and the off-taker. That's literally drawing a cable between a solar or a wind farm and the building or wherever you want to use the electricity. So it's as if you're putting solar on your roof, but maybe it's a wind farm close by, and you draw a direct line to that off-taker. Not only will you get direct electricity supply through that cable, but you will usually also get the guarantees of origin for the renewable energy that is being produced. And a guarantee of origin is a kind of a certificate per megawatt hour of electricity that is being produced from renewable energy to prove that you actually purchased renewable energy. And that then helps to demonstrate, to report against your sustainability goals. Now, this is very straightforward, but it comes with its own challenges and is definitely not the standard option, because it doesn't always, or I should say very often, it's not possible to go this way. But if you have this option, it can be interesting. Second option, now we go into the territory of more common PPAs, is the physical or sleeved PPA, where there's no direct connection between the generator and the off-taker, but the electricity is being produced and put on the electricity grid, and then the off-taker that is connected to the same grid takes the electricity from the grid. And that's where the third-party facilitator often comes in to make sure that everything is going smoothly and is tracked correctly. That's a physical PPA. And then the third option is a virtual PPA, where you don't necessarily have to have a direct link between the generator and the off-taker through the electricity grid. It's a purely financial contract where the off-taker gets electricity from the grid as usual, but has a price guarantee. If prices go too high, that he receives a compensation, or the other way around. And these are the most common types of PPAs. Now, there's a lot of variations to that. This is a very simple schematic. In reality, it can get a lot more complex, but just to get you a bit of an idea of how it might work. Because when you, if you want to consider signing a PPA, there's many elements to consider. You want to think about what renewable energy source type you want to go forward with. Is it solar, wind, biomass, geothermal? There's, of course, more than just solar and wind out there, and depending on where you are, others might be interesting. The investor type, do you want to work with commercial investors? Do you want to use energy communities or cooperatives to more directly involve your citizens? As a local authority, these are questions that could be of interest, and there's, again, many options. What kind of procurement? Often you want to, of course, get a good deal, and auctioning and making sure that you have multiple offers will be usually the best way to go. Do you want to share this with your citizens, or are you more directly interested in covering your own needs, or a mix of that? There's an example of that we'll talk about in a bit. Do you want to cover your base load, or do you want to pay as the electricity generator produces? Is an interesting question. Do you also want to pay for the balancing costs? Solar and wind, of course, vary, and they will have options to cover the entirety of your load if you want, but then that, of course, comes with a cost. But it could be interesting to cover your entire load. How do you price it? Very important, of course. Contract duration, geographical. Do you really want it to be close to you, or do you not mind? Additionality. Do you really want to support new projects, or do you also want to look at existing projects? The type of PPA we talked about already, and the full coverage or only part of your electricity consumption. So a few questions, and we can definitely talk about that later, but it will be important to think through those. So as you may have gotten the gist already, there are some challenges. We shouldn't hide them, not by any means. There's complexity. There's quite some expertise that is required, so getting help will be important. And the example that I will talk about in a minute is a good demonstration of that. There's the credit risk. If you share the risk between the investor and yourself as a public local authority, that of course means that some of the risk is on you now. So what happens if the renewables producer goes bankrupt? And so you have to cover that in the contract. These are long-term contracts, so there's a market risk. You don't know how the electricity market will exactly evolve in the next 10, 20 years. So what seems to be a really good deal today might look different in 15 years. So how do you assess that? What contractual specifications do you need to be able to deal with any evolutions in the future? So do you have the competencies? How does this work with public finance rules, public procurement law, and of course your own creditworthiness? Don't want to scare you with this list of challenges, but it's important, of course, to be aware of them. So a possible way forward for governments to deal with these challenges is, of course, making sure that there's a standardization of contracts, that you don't have to invent everything all the time. Some legislative changes might be helpful. And of course, also, there's now the option to have state guarantees for PPAs in general, so also for municipal PPAs that reduce the risk. Now, one thing is certain, there's definitely not going to be a shortage of renewable energy. This is a picture of the evolution of renewables in the past and where we should get to in 2030. So there should definitely be enough renewable energy either close to you or a bit further removed to contract with. So I don't think that's going to be the bottleneck. Of course, these renewables face their own permitting challenges, etc. But in and of itself, that shouldn't be the problem. And we have seen that PPAs do work in a context of high price volatility, they do stabilize prices and they do offer lower prices than what you would get if you would buy on the market on average. There's always exceptions, of course. So to make that a little bit more concrete, and we'll hear about the experience in Zagreb in a minute. Has this been done before? Yes, there's examples. This one is in Ghent in Belgium, where the local city government signed a virtual PPA with a big solar project on a roof of a company in the city, 7 megawatts, I believe it is. The specific here is that they really wanted to involve local citizens. They didn't specify how that needed to happen, but when they wrote the tender, they really wanted to have a proposal that involved local citizens in the investment. So the cooperative that won the contract opened up the investment to citizens in Ghent and managed to achieve that 700,000 euros of the investment of the 2.5 million euros invested. 700,000 came from local citizens. The project has been realized in the meantime, and I think a big success factor for the project was that the city of Ghent was supported with what's called the Flemish Energy Company. It's a local it's a public entity set up by the Flemish government, regional government, to support local authorities in all kinds of energy issues. And so the Flemish Energy Company, het Vlaamse Energiebedrijf, was instrumental in guiding the city of Ghent through the complexities of a PPA agreement. From what I hear, that has been really important to help. Okay, and then quickly a few minutes about the regulatory context. As I said, PPAs and CFDs are recognized as important for renewable energy investments. They enhance stability. And so when in the follow-up to the energy crisis of 2022, 2023, improvements were discussed to the energy regulation. Supporting long-term contracts was a big part of that. And so the outcome was, or one of the outcomes was a set of reforms to better support PPAs. So the regulation now says that national governments have to promote the uptake of PPAs, including by removing barriers and undue charges on PPAs. So that's a task for your national government in implementing these regulations. The European Commission will check if it's interesting to set up dedicated market platforms for PPAs and to bring buyers and sellers together, in addition to what's already available in the market. Importantly, they will provide guarantee schemes, so financial de-risking of PPAs, specifically for customers facing entry barriers. And I would argue that local authorities, compared to big industrial companies, for example, that are much more used to dealing with market parties, I would argue that local authorities are definitely part of the group that is targeted for guarantee schemes for PPAs. You can combine PPAs and CFDs. That's more of interest to the generators and to the ones investing in the renewables. And Acer was supposed to assess PPAs, the PPA market, and see if there's a need for additional voluntary PPA contract templates. Now, they have done that in the meantime. Recently, they concluded that work, and they concluded that there was no need actually for additional templates. There was already enough templates available according to them. So I'll conclude with a quick link to this. We, together with Energy Cities, published this short briefing. It's available on the link here. We can also post it in the chat. came out last year, where we specifically talked through what I just did, but in a bit more detail, the interest that PPAs could be for cities and towns, and how can you make the most of them. So that's available for your interest. And I think that concludes my talk. I hope that was of interest, and I'm very much looking forward to the Zagreb example.
Thank you so much, Bram, for guiding us through this indeed complex legal and technical concept of PPAs. Just before passing the floor to Marko, I would like to know if there is any clarification questions from any participant that you would like quickly to ask Bram before we dive into Zagreb. If not, we will have a Q&A session after, but if there is anything that you would really like to clarify because something was not clear, don't be shy. You can put it in the chat, or you just take the floor. If not, anyway, keep the questions for after. We'll have a Q&A session. So Marko, ready to show us which type of PPA you're doing in Zagreb and what are the challenges?
Yeah, of course. Hello to everybody. I will share my screen. Do you see the presentation?
Yes, not in full screen yet. So maybe you can...
I think it is the full screen now.
We see it with the... no, we don't see it in full screen. If you just click on the small window at the bottom. But we can see. Anyway, we can see it's readable. So you can go ahead. Don't worry.
Okay. Hello everybody. I'm Marko Kućan from City of Zagreb, and I will represent you the solarization plan for the City of Zagreb. I will be very short about introduction to the City of Zagreb and dive in the challenges we have implementing the PPA in the City of Zagreb. So the City of Zagreb is capital of Croatia. We have the figures are from the 2020, 2029, 2021. So we have don't have the last figures because I think it will be next year or 26 the new the numbers. But the population is around 800,000 people. We have around quarter of GDP in the City of Zagreb. And these some figures and interesting of the City of Zagreb population in City of Zagreb is around 1/5 of all Croatian. We are on the 16 meridian, and we have some interesting museums, restaurants, and if you want to visit Zagreb, if you did already did not. So what the City of Zagreb is doing...
Marko, sorry to interrupt you, but I don't know if it's only me, but I still see the first slide.
Ooh, sorry. Sorry.
Yeah. I hope it's not only me. I mean, Bram, can you confirm you're still on the first slide? So we didn't go through we didn't see your figures. Okay, so I will try to share my screen with your presentation, if you don't mind.
Great.
Just give me a second.
Technical issues.
Yeah, no worries.
Right. Thank you.
So now you should see, I'm going to try to put it in full mode. So I guess that was the figures you quickly presented about the population. which is in Croatia.
And slide number 4.
Because I recognize restaurant. That's the only
Yeah.
word I can read. So
Great.
perfect.
It's not in presentation mode, huh?
It's not in presentation mode.
No.
Excellent. So now my turn to face difficulty to. So you see only the screen with the.
Yeah, and it may be that you're sharing the wrong, because when you go in presentation mode, Teams sometimes doesn't find it. So you need to share the right window.
Although I took the right window, I think, but. So I'm doing it again. Does it work?
Yeah.
Now it looks perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So shall I move to the next slide? You just tell me.
Please. Yeah. The city Zagreb is working lots of activities facing the global warming and climate change, and wants to be the light beacon city in Croatia, and we are doing lots of efforts to implementing all our plans to be finished. So next slide. In case of that, till 2022, we have implemented around 30 solar PV power plants. And then we said, okay, it's now feasible, it's now cheaper than the last 10 years. We want to do it more. So we done the program Integrated Solar Power Plants on Public Buildings, which is based program to call, because we have lots of national laws, because we are public authority, main city, so we have regulations, we must stick to it. So this was the base program to implement in large scales PV power plants on the public buildings in the city of Zagreb. And the aim was 50 megawatts of power, but only 10 megawatts is on public buildings, 10 is on private houses, and 30 is on the business buildings and industry. So next slide. We have in our activities lots of ways how to achieve that. So we have we could buy the power plant from city budget, because we have enormous city budget for that. We have established the city company Zagrebački sunčani krovovi, Zagreb Sunny Roofs will be the translation of the company, which is mainly because the city of Zagreb cannot build PV power plants for the market. So that's why we establish our city company for that. Of course, we want to try PPA model, and we are testing activities with the energy communities and the citizens to be involved in the installation of renewable energy sources on the public buildings in the city of Zagreb. So because it is the webinar about PPA model, I will mainly focus on the PPA model. So we can move to the next slide. This is the almost finished first power plant through the PPA model. It is on home of the elderly people located in northeast part of the town. On the building is already solar panels for the hot water, and then we make the main building design for the PV power plant. And on the right, you can see almost connected to the grid. But as I mentioned, and Bram already mentioned, there are lots of regulations, laws, intersecting. It is very complex way that we achieve that power plant be on that roof, already connection to the grid, from the idea. So I will, last slide is what challenges we overcome to be here connecting those power plants to the grid. So when we decided for 10 megawatts of PV on the roofs, City of Zagreb is owner over the 1,000 buildings, public buildings on the area of the City of Zagreb. First, we took 600 buildings for analyze, which is mainly electricity consumption on those buildings, and we took the biggest consumption and the biggest buildings. So in that analyze, we have around 16 buildings that we chooses to be in PPA model. So the first preparation, the first challenges was the preparation of public procurement, because in our plans, if you start the public procurement, you must have estimated value of that investment. But in case of PPA, the investment for the City of Zagreb is zero, because the power plants are owner of the investor who is calling on the public procurement. So we took some of providers and said, okay, give me estimated values, how much it will be cost, because I must put some value in the public procurement, even those, because the choice of the public procurement is price of kilowatt hour, because we are buying, it is integrated power plant, and all energy produced by the PV power plant will be used on that building. So we want to fix the price of the electricity for that building. And that was the main criteria how we choose the public PPA provider. So after, and I forgot to mention, in the analysis, we every building has the manager. We ask manager, is the building okay? Is everything okay? Do you want a PV power plant on your roof to lower your and fix electricity prices? Yes, everything's great. Just do it. And we start the public procurement. After the public procurement is done, we chose the PPA provider. The managers of the building, we thought you are not serious, but we have some problems with the roofs. Okay. We then contracted the company which will be look after the roofs and say in which state they are. So in 16 objects, 8 was in terrible conditions, and we must give up for the PPA model and go on with the 8 locations for which we signed the contract. After that, we established the protocol for choosing the buildings, not only of per meter square and for electricity consumption, rather than give the static design for the building to see if the building is capable to take the PV on the roofs, state of the art of the roofs, and maybe the building is already in some other project like refurbishment or we have earthquake 2 years ago. So many of buildings in the city of Zagreb are very old and in a terrible condition. So we must take all that in consideration for analyze to pick a good building to build PV on the roof. Then when we overcome those challenges in the start, we signed the electricity purchase agreement. And then was the new challenge, our regulation. The contract was for 15 years. We will buying electricity from the power plant, but our regulation said you cannot rent the roof over the 5 years. So the PPA provider said, oh no, we have contract for 15 years. It is feasible for 15 years, minimum 15 years. And you said you are saying now we have only for rental 5 years. So we must change our internal procedures to extend for 10 years, another 5 years. So they have 10 years of rental of the roofs, and with possibility to extend those contracts for another 5 years to be inclined with 15 years of electricity purchase agreement. And then promissory notes for the regulations is in Croatia valid only for 10 years. So we will be doing the annex before 10 years, just not to expire the promissory notes. So that's a real challenges in implementing the PPA in Croatia. So just for internal procedures, we have another challenge with our DCO firm, because from the internal regulations, only the owner of the buildings can be investor, and they will give the green light for the projects if the city of Zagreb is investor. Okay, we managed to change all documentation for the city of Zagreb, but then you must open the building construction yard, and if the city of Zagreb is investor, we must have some investment and oversight the building and construction, and in the electricity purchase agreement, the all investments were on PPA provider. So we did, I don't know, maybe 3-4 regulations between PPA provider and city of Zagreb to resolve those issues. And then I hope we are in the last stage of challenges and connections to the grid and buying clean energy from PVs. Is insurance companies won't insure the PV power plant because it is not city of Zagreb, because it is on PPA provider, and the building is owner of city of Zagreb, and they won't insure the power plant. And we are now in the case how to solve those problems, but we have the solution. So I hope till the end of this month all will be green, and 4 power plants will be connected to the grid. So this is the real challenges of PPA in city of Zagreb. I don't know if anybody else in the other countries or other cities in Croatia have the similar problems. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Marko, to share this real experience of again, as Bram described, a kind of complex but still promising way of boosting the renewable energy.
Yeah.
That
we want to change. We want to implement. We want to show that this is possible. Of course, that's why we are fighting and finding the solution of those challenges. So it's complex,
from what I saw and understood from your challenges, some of them are really like operational. I mean, like the quality of the roof and so on, which is something in the practice and the experience that you gain, you will improve in the future.
Yeah.
Others are, as far as I understand, national regulations that probably the city of Zagreb, with a bit of advocacy, can try to push for change. And maybe Bram also on that would know if, because we mentioned before the call that so the ACER is also, developing also guidelines. I guess those guidelines are for the member states to try to improve the legal framework for those PPA to boom in a country.
In Croatia, we have lots of laws. They are intersecting with each others. You have a solution in one, but challenge in another. So we must overcome our regulations, internal regulations in the city of Zagreb or the national law to set up the rules, how overcome those challenges which we have in the implementation of those energy projects like PPA or similar.
Bram, any reaction from your side to what Marko just described, or advice actually?
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't presume that I would know more than Marko. It seems like they have a very thorough project going forward. So, no, I think it's really impressive, and it's also good, to be open about the challenges. I think it's important that a bigger city like Zagreb is taking this on. So, smaller towns in the area and the country, of course, can learn from that experience. So they don't have to all figure out the same issues. My only addition would be that it's important that national governments are involved too, at least that they are informed, because they are supposed to look for structural barriers and remove them. So Marko talked about the issues with the DSO, the distribution system operator, for example. This is new for them, and they don't know how to deal with it. To have a concession on the roof of a public authority who's now owning it and who should get the connection agreement. Those are all logical questions, but it shouldn't have to be figured out every time from scratch. So setting up clear rules for projects throughout the country based on that experience is really important. One question that I have to Marko is, so I talked about the Ghent experience and the role that the Flemish energy company played to support them. I have the impression that in Zagreb you're really working through this on your own, or did you have external assistance from, I don't know, consultant or some public entity? How did you do that?
Yeah, City of Zagreb is established regional energy and climate agency, REGEA, which we have. We are one of four owners of that agency. there are 3 counties in ownership, and there's help with those projects. It's beyond the value. You cannot imagine what help we did get from them. So many thanks to the REGEA and the people working there.
So Bram, it's similar to what you presented about Flanders. So they have this regional energy agency, who actually is also the president of the European Federation of Energy Agencies, FEDAREN, a partner of involved into the Covenant of Mayors Office. And there are those, I mean, they were also supported by the, and I think some of the participants in the call are also working for some of those agencies. They are, let's say, the operational arm of public authorities to provide guidance, but still, I guess PPA is relatively new. It's like energy community. We know about the difficulty of transposing EU regulation into at national level. Again, Flanders, when it comes to energy community, is really ahead, and they started years ago. But Croatia, Italy are struggling because the national rules are not that flexible in terms of creating those new types of practices, policies. I know that yesterday I was talking with the deputy mayor of Modena, and he's experienced difficulties for the recognition of an energy community because the city is part of it. So there are many things like that slowly we'll figure out. Is there any participant who has experience with a PPA and who would like to probably quickly share some thoughts? Or you were actually all coming here to hear about what it is, also about the challenges, and I hope you won't be scared about trying to launch a power purchase agreement, despite the challenges that Marko explained very, very well, as well as Bram. And in case you're facing difficulty, you know to whom you could actually ask for support. But anyone would like either to share an experience or if you have any questions to our 2 speakers before we close in 5-6 minutes the webinar. And don't be shy, or just you can also write the question in case in the chat. Gianmarco.
Hello there.
Yes.
Hello there. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, perfectly.
Actually, mine is probably the most stupidest question ever. So I would prefer to keep it as the last one, if it's all right with you. So I don't want to, steal space to other participants. So mine is really stupid. So maybe as the last question before we just close the session. Thank you.
There's no stupid question. So launch your question, and then maybe
you will change your mind as soon as
No problem. We take your question. If there are many others that are much smarter, we'll take the other ones first. But go with the question.
Okay. So I will just ask my question. My question would be, is there a place where I can get all the remaining part of this interesting topic? Congratulations to all the speakers, because it's been really interesting. Unfortunately, I only got this third part, so I completely missed the first and the second one. And my stupid question would be, is there a place where I can catch up with all the seminars and a place where I look to the recordings? That was it. Thank you.
So first thing, in the chat, I just put it again. You will find a guideline, a publication that actually one of our speakers that you apparently missed, Bram, is a co-author of that publication explaining what a power purchase agreement is, the different types and so on. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I'm recording this webinar, and we will, I can find a way to send it to you, the recording. I don't know yet whether we will make it public or not, but that could be something. I should have your email because you're registered, and I can send to you the recording, and you can watch the first part of it, if that's fine with you.
Yeah, that would be excellent. Thank you so much.
Did I cover the 2 non-stupid questions? Yeah, it's okay?
It's okay. It was just that one. So thanks a lot.
Anyone else who would like to ask or share an experience on power purchase agreement? No? Well, first I would like, before closing and guiding you through a couple of information about our next series of webinar, because that was also a question of Gianmarco. A big thank to Marko and Bram for their time and for sharing their knowledge on this complex topic. We cannot do a round of applause online, but really, you don't hesitate to put the figure on the screen, and then quickly informing you. And I'm sorry if it's not on full screen. We will have a next webinar on finance. So that's part of this series the Covenant of Mayors Office is organizing. That will be on innovative finance for urban adaptation. I mean, adaptation to climate change is also a key pillar of the Covenant of Mayors. We're not only talking about climate neutrality and renewable energy, we're also ensuring that cities can protect their citizens and their community from the risk of climate change. So that's on the 20th of March and organized by my colleague who is online, Elisa. And then we will also be launching next week a call for technical assistance. So we will be doing that as Covenant of Mayors Office together with another EU initiative called the Smart Cities Marketplace. So please stay tuned to all our social media in case you're interested to receive technical assistance and to, in a way, to make it short, move from a concept, an action that you have described into your action plan and move it to the next steps to an investment plan and get the funding for it, you could be a beneficiary of this technical assistance. Why is the slide moving? Yeah, maybe moved. I hope yes. That's just quickly, if you want to, there's one question. If you want to let us know if it was relevant for you, this webinar, you just make a picture of this QR code and briefly answer the short question. I think it's a rank between 1 and something and 1 and 5, whether it was relevant. And if you have any suggestion for the next topics and next activities we can do through our office. And with that, so I'm just leaving this one because if not, I'm going to thank you already. I would like once again to thank Bram and Marko for their time, and to all of you for participating to this webinar. And so stay tuned, and we'll see each other again in one of our sessions to try to build your capacities and boost your transition to climate neutrality. Thanks a lot and have a nice day. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.